Hey guys, Freedom Voice here. I want to do another video on the subject of surveillance, just to kind of show you just how intrusive the technology is. Not only does law enforcement and intelligence agencies have access to a myriad of cameras and recording devices and facial recognition, but they're increasing their access, surprisingly, to the private sector's recording devices, such as laptops, telephones, cell phones, and as well as Ring cameras. I want to play this video by CBN News to just kind of show you how intrusive the technology has become.
Many of us are under surveillance at this very moment. No warrants are needed and no laws are broken. The most obvious culprit is all the cameras, and America has as many surveillance cameras per person as communist China. Police departments from New York to LA are combining these cameras with facial recognition technology to track everyone. You're also giving away your personal information about where you are, what you like, even about your mental health, without even realizing it. Every click, purchase, and like is harvested and sold for profit by data brokers, feeding a growing digital advertising market that is close to $1 trillion in value.
So as you can see that the technology is not only limited to what the infrastructure has been put in place by the government or by the state. Increasingly, we're seeing that they have infrastructure that includes the private sector. It includes your own private devices, such as your laptop or your tablet or your cell phone, and even your Ring camera. And not only that, all of the smart technology that is available on your car is also part of that infrastructure.
Even your car tire sensors allow you to be tracked. Byron Tao is the author of Means of Control.
A lot of that data ends up in the hands of data brokers, and those data brokers make that data available for sale to researchers, to marketers, to companies, and even to governments. So it's very, very difficult to escape the kind of logging and surveillance that modern technology brings along with it.
It's being called surveillance capitalism.
The internet is now a prison. It's a surveillance prison. It is owned and operated by private capital.
They want access to our contacts. They want access to our calendars. Well, lots of app developers take that information and they suck it up. They vacuum it up. They know who your friends are. They know where you go. So that kind of information is available for sale.
I find this very interesting as well as very disturbing. Not only are private data brokers capturing all this information, details about American people, but it seems like this information is being captured on people around the world. This is kind of a global effort. And it's not just information on things that we do from a day-to-day basis, such as things that we buy, places that we go. They've got facial recognition cameras as well as license plate readers and so on and so forth. But I believe they're also collecting biodata metrics as well.
Your data is also being sold to the police and the federal government. A product called Fog Reveal allows police to create what are called patterns of life on a person and to possibly track them without a warrant. The government is also continuing to use a backdoor in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, to spy on America. The government is also continuing to use a backdoor in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, to spy on Americans, which is supposed to be illegal.
You know, guys, you would be amazed at the amount of data that's being collected on a day-to-day basis on every individual. And not only would you be amazed at the data that's being collected, but this data is also available sort of retroactively. In other words, they have the technology to be able to go back and look at individuals' lives 10, 20 years back through the data that's being collected and stored. And we've been told this. We were told this by guys like Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning and many others. But we sort of didn't really listen, in my opinion. But now we're seeing it all come to life now. And it's being used by law enforcement intelligence agencies, not so much to crack crimes. It's being used to sort of control the masses and control individuals. I think it's part of the whole surveillance as well as mind controlling program that's sort of been put in place since the 60s. Let's continue.
But what really bothers Dave Moss, the director of investigations at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, are all the license plate readers used by police.
This is one of the most pernicious and offensive technologies in the United States. It is misrepresented to the public in such a way that people think it's doing one thing when it's actually doing another. So for your audience, license plate readers are cameras that take a picture of your car and digitize the license plate as well as other elements to it, your bumper sticker, the color, make, model, year, whether you have damage to your vehicle, and uploads that to a central database along with where your car was seen and when. So a police officer can sit down at a computer and type in your license plate and see everywhere across the country that your vehicle was caught on camera, sometimes going back years and years and years.
When I see things like this, I often ask the question, how come they didn't use the technology to solve crimes, like the crime of the Michael Miller case? You know, I mean, we only had one picture of the license plate reader for J.P. Miller. How come we didn't see a whole host of license plate readers so that we can carefully track his steps from the time he left Myrtle Beach until the time he, quote unquote, went to Charleston? How come we don't see it in other cases? How come we don't see it in a lot of the kids and children that go missing year after year? Many thousands of hundreds of thousands of children that go missing. How come they're not using any of this technology to solve those cases? Many times we hear, in case of school shootings, we hear things like, oh, we had our eyes on him, the FBI would say. We've been watching him, or he was on our radar. But we never see the tracks that they cover to watch someone. And they have the technology, as we can see here, I mean, to really, really track someone and to see exactly, even beforehand, they commit such a crime. That's because this technology is not used for crime solving.
The license plate reader went off on it and said it was a driver's license restraint. So it looks like on here, so she has a suspended driver's license.
That can be on any screen on the computer, and if it hits on a license plate, it'll pop up.
It doesn't matter whether you are tied to a crime or not, they're capturing it on everyone. And that allows them to track you in real time. They can add you to a watch list and just watch you and get alerts every time you pass. They can add you to a watch list and just watch you and get alerts every time you pass a camera.
Now, keep in mind, guys, this is the information that I was trying to share in my last video about the fusion centers. A lot of this data is being collected and stored in fusion centers. It's being sort of uploaded to a big hub at NSA. And I believe a lot of this is being used for the gang stalking program. It's very obvious that it is. It's just a matter of more details coming out. You know, more and more as I watch these videos, and that's the reason why I sort of react on it on my channel, because more and more you begin to see these guys actually tell on themselves. If you just keep watching the technology and watching them talk about it, you can begin to put the pieces of the puzzle together to see how, in fact, they are violating Americans' rights as far as privacy, and as well as running these sort of Stasi-type programs, including the gang stalking program, to control and to manipulate and intimidate American people and dumb them down and even actually control them and force them to commit heinous crimes and acts because of the harassment and the stalking. Let's continue.
A Duke University study found that data brokers are also selling lists of people with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and PTSD, all harvested from medical apps and websites. Constitutional attorney John Whitehead says this is all a clear violation of the Constitution's ban on unreasonable searches and seizures.
The Fourth Amendment's dead because on their phones and their laptops, they have all this information on you. It's called predictive policing, and they're watching everything people are doing.
Notice, guys, here they call it predictive policing. This is exactly, I believe, the connection that we find between this technology and the gang stalking program. But above and beyond that, I mean, the fact of the matter is they call it predictive policing. They're supposed to be able to predict crimes before it happens. But we find more and more that they're not predicting crimes. They're actually engineering crimes using this technology. And that's something that if you really look at a lot of the things, a lot of the crimes that are being reported, a lot of things that are happening that we're reading, seeing, and reading about, you can see very clearly that number one, either they turned a blind eye to the crime before it happened, or number two, they were involved in the crime from the beginning.
There have been some ingenious attempts to thwart facial recognition. However, none of these work.
The surveillance of Americans is an issue that should unite both the political right and left, because we're all losing an important constitutional protection.
If you care about something, then you should be worried about surveillance. I don't care what the issue is that you care about. It could be gun rights. It could be the rights of Palestinians. If you care about something, surveillance is going to harm your rights.
We asked the FBI if it's still buying the data of Americans. It did not respond. The question is, can Americans roll back the surveillance state when data harvesting is now such a large part of the economy and so little is being done to stop it? The issue has been raised on Capitol Hill, but a new law this year only protects Americans' data from being sold to some foreign governments. Tao says consumers need to realize that most of the apps on their phone are trying to gather data to be sold. Beware of granting apps location permissions. Use only encrypted messaging services and search engines that promise not to track you. You can also delete your phone's advertising ID, which can be used to track your habits and movements. And you can buy services that remove your data from the marketplace. For there to be any fundamental return to privacy in America, however, experts say Americans are going to have to demand more change from Washington. Dale Hurd, CBN News.